This is the Panzer, 1 to 10 power first focal plane LPVO, and while this is Monstrum Tactical's first focal plane 1 to 10, that isn't as remarkable as its street price, which is under $250, which either makes this a great bargain or a complete piece of junk, and we're going to find out which is true on this episode of Moondog Industries. Hey, Moondog here. I have with me the brand new Monstrum Panzer. This is a 1 to 10 power by 24mm first focal plane LPVO. Yes, you heard that right. This is Monstrum's first focal plane LPVO, at least I believe that's the case, with their new CM2 reticle, which I may have misidentified as the BDCC1 reticle at some point, but that aside, this is their brand new LPVO. Well, we're going to see what you get in the box. We're going to look at its features and then take it out and take a look through the glass at that new reticle. So let's get started. Rather than doing an unboxing, let's just show you what you get in the box. And somehow they also managed to fit in a really nice cantilever mount. This is the new Monstrum Panzer LPVO. This is a 1 to 10 by 24. What makes this new is that this is Monstrum's first focal plane reticle LPVO, as far as I'm aware of. The name Panzer is German for tank, and you can see that name coming through in the overall design, the industrial design of this product here. The aggressive texturing on its control surfaces are reminiscent or design inspired by tank treads. So that's a nice little design motif. Let me just remove these flip up caps so we can take a look at the glass here. And yeah, there's threading on the front should you want to add a kill flash. And the back is a nice big ocular lens. It has two colors on the illuminator here. This is their standard red and green type of rheostat with an off in between the two color settings from the lowest. And this is powered by a single 2032 coin battery. It came with one pre-installed and came with a spare. The cap is removable with a coin or a flathead screwdriver. And let's take a look at these caps. And these are capped turrets. Let's listen. All right, that is nice and audible. Not super tactile though. I can hear them more than I can feel them. And there's a bit of slop. Can jiggle these before it indexes. And let's listen to the windage. Not as loud. And again, not super tactile positive. I can feel it, but it's not super crisp. And there is a bit of slop before the click. These are resettable though, so with an Allen key, you can, once you have your reticle zeroed out, you can pop off the turret, set it to 0, pop it down, and screw them back in. And these are half an MOA, or half an inch at 100 yards per click. All right, let's take a look at this magnification ring. Oh, that's pretty smooth. Yeah, and it has not just this aggressive tread pattern, but it also has a little fin that functions like a throw lever. And it also comes with a throw lever. So what you do is there's a little Phillips screw in there. You just unscrew that and slide off this fin, and you can screw in a little throw lever knob, should you prefer that sort of control surface. But I like this fin. This is quite fine. Gives you a nice amount of leverage, a sufficient amount of leverage. Whether you're wearing a glove or with wet hands, this should be fine. Now let's just take a look at this diopter, this fast focus. Smooth, not butter smooth. All right, so overall I think this is a well put together piece of optic here. Let's take it out to the range, take it outdoors, and give it a test. All right, let's take a look at the glass. And we always start at 1 power for the best overall image through an optic. And I immediately notice a very slight warm tint, but overall it's very sharp and clear. And as we move this around, we're looking for any distortions, especially from the center to the outer edge, to detect any sort of fish eyeing that might be occurring, but this is actually pretty darn good, pretty accurate, pretty one-to-one. You can even see that in terms of the image color. The color of the sky pretty much matches the sky outside of the lens. So that is some pretty good glass. And we can also see here, if you look at the telephone pole, especially towards the very edge of the scope, there's no distortions. With a lower quality glass, you'd get that straight telephone pole would look like it's bent or bowed out. But this is pretty decent glass for a budget scope. All right, because as we increase the magnification, we'll also increase or magnify any faults in the glass. So let's do that. Let's bring it up to about halfway, which is 5 power. And you can see how the reticle has changed because this is a first focal plane reticle. It increases, it scales up in size as we increase magnification. And the image at 5 power is still quite detailed. You can see all the leaves on the trees there in the foreground. And as we bring it up to 10 power, we're still seeing some good detail there, even at the distance. That is the top of Mount Davidson that we're looking at there. And let me see if I can get that into sharper focus on the camera there. But that is the peak of Mount Davidson, 1,400 yards away through the scope at 10 power. And we're still getting pretty good detail despite the haze that we're picking up between us and that 1,400 yard peak. So we're getting a lot of atmospheric haze in between us. So we're going to lose some contrast. But detail is good. There's a little bit of chromatic aberration. You can see that at the edge of the tree line where it meets the sky. But overall, not bad for an LPVO. And we can even make out, there's a white object to the right and just below the center crosshairs. That is a trail marker sign on top of the hill. That is a 36-inch tall sign on top of an 8-foot pole, which is a good proxy for an IPSC target at this distance. And let's bring up this reticle up into the sky so we can see it a little more clearly. And that is a nice long-distance reticle with subtensions for both elevation and wind holds, as well as a range estimation grid or ladder below at the very bottom of the crosshairs there. And you can use that using the shoulder width of your target or an IPSC target to determine a rough estimation of its distance. And as we bring down the magnification, as I mentioned, this is a first focal plane reticle, so that reticle will start to shrink in size, but all the subtensions will remain consistent to your target. And that is at 1 power, and it is quite a fine T-style reticle at 1 power. Still visible, but the problem with a fine reticle is that it can be a little hard to pick out from a cluttered background like this, especially with different lighting conditions, which is why you'll want to have some illumination. Now it has 2 different colors. We're going to start with green. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I can kind of make out the center green. It's not particularly bright, and usually green stands out a lot more than red. Let's take a look at that zoomed in, just so you can see that it is on there. But yeah, it is kind of dim even in green. Alright, let's try it in red. Off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's a little more visible. See that here. It's a little more visible than the green. But is it daylight bright? Let's take a look at the wall there. That's lit by the sun. No, not very visible. Alright, I've set up some reference targets at the gun range, and we're going to take a look at them at 100 yards and at 50 yards. And while I walk back to the 100-yard benches, now would be a great time to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Thanks for doing that. We're looking through the Panzer at its lowest magnification of 1 power at our targets 100 yards downrange. And let me bring this up to its maximum of 10 power. So we can take a look. And I don't know if you can if it captures this clearly here, but through my naked eye, I can see quite a bit of detail, much more than the camera can. I can see the horizontal and vertical resolution lines almost halfway down the scale on group -1 with my naked eye. First, let me just take a look at this from a reference from the size of our central reticle to our figure at 100 yards. That's what it looks like. We are at 50 yards now with the Panzer, taking a look at the same reference targets at 1 power. Now let's bring this back up to 10 power. Let me just adjust the focus there. And I'm going to freeze the frame here so that we're not distracted by any heat shimmer in the afternoon sun here. Let's take a look at these reference targets in greater detail. Now, as we brought it up to 10 power, we lost some brightness, contrast, so it looks a little bit washed out, but there is surprisingly little chromatic aberration, if any, and I can make out some good fine details. On the bottom left target there, I can easily make out the holes on the reactive sticker target, but more importantly, I can see 2 small 22 caliber holes below that sticker target. And looking at our U.S. Air Force optical resolution chart on the bottom right, I can make out both horizontal and vertical lines all the way down to element 3 in group -1, which is really quite good. Alright, the Panzer. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you to hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps this channel grow, so I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And full disclosure here, this video was sponsored by Monstrum Tactical, but I am not a paid spokesperson, so I'm not shilling for their products. I told them what I'm telling you right now is that I'm not going to sugarcoat any of the problems, shortcomings, or criticisms I have about this optic. And starting with that, let's talk about the reticle and the illumination. Now, I'm not a fan of most of Monstrum's reticle designs on their LPVOs, but the CM2 at 10 power is actually pretty nicely designed. It's pretty usable, save for the fact that I would have liked the central part of the crosshairs, the stadia, to be just slightly thinner, because I don't want any of my reticle obscuring my targets at long range. And the converse is true at close range. I want a nice, big, bold reticle, but unfortunately, as a first focal plane reticle, while it looks perfectly fine at 10 power, once you crank it down to 1 power, that reticle shrinks down, gets thinner, and you end up with a very thin, small T-style reticle, which wouldn't be so bad if you could illuminate it. But this is not red dot bright. It's not even daylight bright in terms of its illumination. It is, well, to be charitable, it is, you know, bright enough for low light or CQB, but that's pretty typical, pretty average for an LPVO. And another way that the Panzer is just average is its eye box. It's rather tight and unforgiving, but I'm finding that to be the case with many 1 to 10 power LPVOs, more so than 1 to 6s. Even at 1 power, they all tend to be fairly unforgiving. And I wonder if that has to do with just the fact that it is a 1 to 10, it has such a broad magnification range, that the trade-off is the eye box. But one good thing about this is it has a fairly decent eye relief of 4.5 inches. And another way that this particular LPVO is better than average is in the mount. Is actually looks like a premium mount. It's pretty legit. If this had a bigger brand name logo on it, you know, I wouldn't think twice that this would cost $75 or $100. But the fact that it comes with it, well, that's a bonus. And one other way that this is better than your typical LPVO is in its optics quality. Now, it's certainly not perfect. It's certainly not high-end quality. And we saw in the footage from the hill a kilometer away, we definitely saw some softening around the outer edge of the image. And, you know, at the range, we lost light and contrast at 10 power, but it was still able to resolve a lot of fine details. And certainly, it is much brighter and clearer and sharper than other budget LPVOs that cost 2-3 times as much. And I'm talking to you, Sig Tango. This is better than most budget LPVOs out there. And it's priced here at $250. This is definitely punching above its weight class. And if you're interested in picking up one of these LPVOs, I'll include product links as well as more information in my full written review at moondogindustries.com. So check that out, use those links, help support this channel. Now, I wasn't able to do a long-term durability test on this because I actually have to ship this back to Monstrum. Monstrum. SHOT Show's in a couple of weeks, and they need this at the booth. That's how new this optic is. But hopefully I'll be able to do a long-term test. Now, I was able to take it out to the range and run a few mags through it just to confirm that it holds 0. But I would like to do a real thorough durability test with this. And if you're interested in seeing a video like that, leave me a comment. Maybe I'll even do an abuse test. Now, I'm not advocating abusing your optics. You know, this does have a lifetime warranty, but it only covers workmanship and materials, not abuse. Don't abuse your optics. But, you know, you could watch me do that. If you're interested, leave a comment and maybe I'll do a video on that. Anyway, thanks to Monstrum for lending this LPVO for me to test and evaluate. And thank you for taking the time to watch this video. You be safe out there. Moondog, out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.